Welcome and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us. We're thrilled to be hosting all of you for today's virtual visit to iconic Pittsburgh, where next is now. I'm Kyle Chinalopoli, Vice President of Business and Economic Development at the region's Economic Development Organization, the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance. Through the course of today's presentation, should you have questions for any of our speakers, please submit them using GoTo's question feature in the control panel. Just click on the orange arrow to expand it, and we ask that you use the question feature rather than raising your hand since we have so many people participating today. In a few minutes, I'll be sharing an overview of Pittsburgh, but first, we'd like to turn it over to Greg Kalbaugh, Executive Director of SelectUSA, an integral partner in making today's event possible. Greg?
Great, thank you, Kyle. Thanks for the introduction. I'm pleased to welcome everyone to today's SelectUSA virtual tour featuring the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania virtual tour that we're about to embark on is one of the recently launched series of SelectUSA virtual tours. My name is Greg Kalbaugh, and I'm the Executive Director of SelectUSA. I'm happy to be speaking with all of you today, and I look forward to a great presentation led by Kyle, who's the Vice President of the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance. SelectUSA is the government-wide initiative dedicated to advancing President Trump's trade and economic agenda by actively attracting job-creating business investment into the United States. Since its inception, SelectUSA has facilitated more than $66 billion in investment, creating and or retaining over 90,000 U.S. jobs. In fiscal year 2019 alone, SelectUSA facilitated more than $18.5 billion in investment. Keeping in line with the robust pro-growth policies of the Trump administration, we've made the United States the #1 destination for business investment, ensuring economic growth and creating opportunities for hardworking Americans. In fact, just a week or so ago, the A.T. Kearney FDI Index once again ranked the United States as the #1 investment destination for CEOs from some of the world's largest corporations. The entire Trump administration is working hard to create an environment in which companies operating in the U.S. can flourish. We've reduced burdensome regulations, we've lowered tax rates, we're focused on protecting intellectual property and on improving infrastructure. In short, we're doing everything in our power to make it easier and less expensive for companies to expand their operations by doing business here. Hopefully you're familiar with the SelectUSA team and what we can do to support business investors to succeed in the US. For those of you who may be less familiar, we're here to assist you in finding your next investment location. SelectUSA works one-on-one with companies, and our team has a proven track record of successfully connecting international companies with partners and resources to help them achieve their investment goals in the US. Our services include information and counseling, events and assistance navigating the federal regulatory system. We also work closely with economic development organizations, including the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance, and through SelectUSA virtual tours, we're able to offer business investors like yourselves an overview of existing opportunities in different sectors and locations across the U.S. Last year, 309,000 U.S. jobs were directly supported by majority foreign-owned affiliates in Pennsylvania, and a total of 416 announced greenfield projects were reported in Pennsylvania in its top sectors. And those sectors include software and IT services, industrial equipment, business services. So until we're able to gather in person, the SelectUSA team will continue partnering with EDOs to offer virtual tours of select locations around the United States. Next year, international companies will have the opportunity to tour the locations that we're showcasing in our virtual tour series in person, following the 2021 Investment Summit, which will take place June 6th through 9th in Washington, D.C. So again, that's going to be 2021, June 6th through 9th. Please mark your calendars for Washington, D.C., and then you'll all have an opportunity to tour the locations that we're showcasing here in the virtual tour series. Registration for the 2021 summit will open in September, and we invite you all to apply at that time. I would like to strongly encourage international companies joining the virtual tour today to take full advantage of the opportunity to schedule one-on-one virtual matchmaking meetings with the members of the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance during the remainder of this week. One-on-one virtual matchmaking sign-up details were provided along with your registration instructions for this event, but please contact us right away at SelectUSA at SUSA-events@trade.gov if you have not received that info and would like to take advantage of the opportunity to meet virtually with our hosts. So again, that's SUSA-events@trade.gov. If you'd like to RSVP for the upcoming virtual tours and other virtual investment programs, please visit our website at SelectUSA.gov and subscribe to our mailing list to receive updates. SelectUSA and our colleagues located in the U.S. Commercial Service in Pittsburgh are here to help your company if you have any questions. So I'd like to thank the U.S. Commercial Service in Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance, and all of our speakers today for putting on this great event. With that, Kyle, I turn the floor back over to you.
Great, thank you, Greg. Mickey, I'll give you a chance to get the slides caught up. Before my colleagues dive more fully into what is happening locally in robotics and AI, I would like to provide you with an overview of our region and some insight into the culture of collaboration and innovation you, your business, and talent to thrive here. I do also want to remind, since we've had a number of people join, that if you have questions for us, please use the question feature that you can find in the control panel. Once you hit the orange arrow, it'll expand and you'll have the option there. Next slide. In today's overview, we're going to cover who's Pittsburgh and the culture and spirit you're going to find here, the talent and industries that Pittsburgh is really for, and our regional economy. Next slide. If you want to tackle some of the planet's most complex challenges and have real impact, then this is the place for you. Whether you're a builder, creator, artist, maker, entrepreneur, or innovator, you can have influence and make your mark in Pittsburgh. We celebrate ingenuity, appreciate hard work, and invest in passion. Next slide. Our region offers businesses and your talent a strategic location with great connectivity. Pittsburgh is located within 500 miles of 45% of the population of both the United States and Canada and half of the US total buying power. Next slide. One of Pittsburgh's greatest assets is our purpose-driven people. This is the home to inspired, forward-thinking individuals who are committed to leaving the world a better place. Next slide. The Pittsburgh region provides an experience unlike anywhere else. There truly is something for everyone, which empowers you to not only enjoy your work, but to love your life outside of it. Next slide. You'll find a striking blend of architecture set among abundant natural beauty with our 3 inviting rivers, rolling islands, and verdant forests never far away. Whatever you're looking for, you can find it here. Next slide. You'll also find a burgeoning food scene that is uniquely authentic to this place and has options to satisfy just about every appetite. Next slide. And performing in visual arts venues that rival any major city, yet remain incredibly accessible. Next slide. Purpose-driven people make remarkable things happen in Pittsburgh every day. Here, leaders of all backgrounds and across a spectrum of industries and disciplines are seizing opportunities to shape the world. Next slide. Pittsburgh is a community of inspired, dedicated, and forward-thinking individuals who are leaving a legacy for generations to come. Next slide. Fueled by 83 regional universities and post-secondary career and technical education institutions, you will find a robust talent pipeline with tech talent that is powering our robotics and AI sectors, all in a region that is appealing to young talent and STEM professionals, as you can see on the slide here. Next slide. People and companies come to Pittsburgh to solve some of the most challenging problems in the world. It's something we've always done. Pittsburgh is for everyone who wants to build, problem solve, collaborate, and change the world. We don't settle for the status quo. Next slide. We're the birthplace of many world-changing firsts in technologies. This includes the polio vaccine, the Internet emoticon, artificial intelligence, and the first institute dedicated to robotics research. This is because our focus has always been on the future, on what's next. Today, that means pioneering self-driving cars, taking payloads to the moon, monitoring the space station, raising the bar in advanced and additive manufacturing, and so much more. Next slide. Whether you're starting out or have decades of experience, the region not only gives companies and individuals the opportunity to grow and accelerate your idea that will change the world, but it also provides proximity and access to decision makers, influencers, and leaders who will support and take those ideas to the next level. As you can see on the slide here, everything you need to build something incredible is in Pittsburgh, all in an ecosystem that offers 360-degree support from your concept to market. Next slide. Our regional economy is really active and centered around 5 main clusters that you see here on the slide. Logistics and transportation, manufacturing, energy, healthcare and life sciences, and really where we're focused today in tech, specifically robotics and artificial intelligence. Next slide. The potential for innovation-grounded investment is big here. A few specific real estate clusters are highlighted on the slide, but no matter what you are looking for, the region can provide you with real estate to build your opportunity. Next slide. A few sites that are specifically focused around robotics and artificial intelligence are shown here. Across the top, you have the Tech Forge, which is in our Lawrenceville neighborhood, the RIDC Westmoreland property, which is in Westmoreland County, Carnegie Robotics, which is also in Lawrenceville, the Mill 19 and Hazelwood Green sites, which are in Hazelwood neighborhood of the city, and most notably, and we'll hear more about this later from Joel, but Robotics Row, which is a 3-mile strip that really has concentrated investment around robotics and artificial intelligence in the strip district of Lawrenceville. Next slide. Innovation is one of our greatest strengths. Propelled by our universities and their R&D capabilities that encompass academia, corporations, and government, cutting-edge technology is not only created in Pittsburgh, but catapults to commercialization here. The foundation of this ecosystem of innovation is really the academic R&D investments that support and stabilize this system. You can see the significant investment and accolades on the slide here, and our colleagues from Pitt and CMU will provide more information on that later. Next slide. We fostered the development of an entrepreneurial, philanthropic, and purposeful approach to solving problems that is rooted in a strong culture of collaboration and partnerships. It is evident when we look at the robotics and AI sectors and the multidisciplinary teams who work together on those problems every day. Next slide. There's truly something happening in Pittsburgh. You have to be a part of it. We'd like to work with you to help you find your place here, and we'll provide more information on how to do that later. But now, I'd like to introduce you to Joel Reed, Executive Director of the Pittsburgh Robotics Network, an organization that represents Pittsburgh's expanding portfolio of robotics companies and is focused on helping to grow and promote an industry that continues to characterize Pittsburgh to the rest of the world. Joel?
Thank you very much, Kyle. I welcome our audience today, and I'm really pleased to introduce you to the Pittsburgh robotics community. Next slide. So with my 10 minutes, I want to reinforce what you may already know and what you just heard a little bit about. Pittsburgh is one of the world's top robotics ecosystems. I will touch on how Pittsburgh came to be, and I'm going to show examples of our companies that are driving innovation and ultimately changing the world. We see ourselves as a community that is scaling beyond our roots with lots of untapped potential. And the Pittsburgh Robotics Network exists to help bridge you to this opportunity. Next slide. Most of you know about CMU, and we'll hear more from Mark Nolan in a little bit. As Kyle just mentioned, our annual R&D expenditures are 3rd in the US, and this is just behind the Bay Area and Boston. And it's not just CMU that's driving this. We have over 20 academic and private research centers, including the University of Pittsburgh, driving our innovation. Next. This strong base of research has somewhat quietly translated into a great deal of commercial opportunity, with over 100 commercial companies and many more in the pipeline. And these companies cover a broad range of industry verticals. This includes aerospace, agriculture, healthcare, supply chain, retail, and many more. Next. And we're growing rapidly. Many of these companies and the jobs they created occurred in just the last 10 years. Last year alone, our region received over $2.5 billion in outside investments. We're no longer a well-kept secret. Next. Pittsburgh is a top technology region because of a high density of talent. With our top programs and over 12,000 new tech graduates per year, we can supply the talent needed to meet a growing demand. In my own experience, I was the early stage CEO of a local company called I Am Robotics. And we grew from 13 people to over 50 in just an 8-month period. And we were able to attract candidates from all over the United States and from the world. Next. So why Pittsburgh? In the interest of time, I'm going to oversimplify this. In the 18th century, we had one of the largest mineral deposits in the United States. Coal became steel, and steel built our railroads as the country rapidly expanded. Westinghouse, founded and based in Pittsburgh, invented the railway air brake and ultimately became a deep source of innovation and engineering talent. It was Westinghouse that introduced robots to the general public at the 1939 New York World's Fair with a working humanoid named Electro and his sidekick Sparko. Electro became the first celebrity robot. The history of invention and innovation served as the raw natural resources for this upcoming industrial revolution. Next. Further, Westinghouse directly funded and supported the creation of CMU's Robotics Institute. Today, CMU is widely considered as one of the top research and academic institutions for both robotics and artificial intelligence. And this remains a natural wellspring of new talent for our companies each year. Next. It wasn't long until we saw commercial solutions emerge from the Institute and their research. A notable example was Workhorse, developed by famed Red Whitaker in response to a nuclear incident at 3 Mile Island near Pittsburgh. Workhorse marked the beginning of developing advanced machines to solve extremely difficult problems. Next. Another example is automated healthcare, which developed one of the first fully automated drug dispensing systems. Automated healthcare is now part of Omnicell, which is a $1 billion a year business with a significant presence in the Pittsburgh region. Next. Nearly a decade after that, we see the emergence of autonomous mobile machines. Aethon introduced what is considered to be the first AMR, or autonomous mobile robot. They started in hospital delivery, but are expanding into new markets as AMRs take off, especially as social distancing has become a public health priority. Next. Another example is Seagrid, which introduced the first fully autonomous material handling system. Seagrid is currently a leader in the logistics market and recently recorded record revenue and closed $25 million in growth equity. Next. Finally, the self-driving industry started in Pittsburgh as CMU's Tartan team won the US DARPA Urban Grand Challenge in 2007. Many team members from that period went on to create and or lead the top autonomous vehicle companies today. Next. Pittsburgh is known for its 3 rivers, and the banks of those rivers supported past industrial revolutions. Today, many of the commercial companies reside in this densely concentrated stretch of land that Kyle mentioned, which is along the Allegheny River and is now known as Robotics Row. This area lies in close proximity to our local universities and to our corporate and financial centers, and offers a large stock of vibrant neighborhoods. It's this density, our collaborative nature, the scale of the opportunity, the affordable and diverse housing options, multimodal transportation, and access to big city amenities that are extremely attractive to today's technology worker. Next. So I want to introduce you to some of our companies, and first I'm going to highlight Bossa Nova, which offers a full-fledged retail inventory management system that leverages robots deployed to and operating inside consumer retail environments. They have robots in 350 Walmart stores with plans to expand to 1,000 this summer. Next. Honeywell has a long history in Pittsburgh with previous acquisitions, but last year it made a large commitment by creating Honeywell Robotics, an advanced technology center, with the goal of creating the distribution center of the future. Next. Another supply chain company is IM Robotics, which commercialized the world's first mobile picking robot for e-commerce fulfillment applications. IM recently sold a fleet of picking robots to A.S. Watson, the world's largest health and beauty retailer. Next. We're also making space and space exploration more accessible. Specifically, Astrobotics is developing solutions for lunar and planetary missions. With $200 million from NASA, Astrobotic is now part of the search to find water on the moon. They're in the process of adding over 100 new jobs on Pittsburgh's North Shore, just across the Allegheny River from Robotics Row. Next. And just last month, Volkswagen invested $2.6 billion into Argo AI, joining Ford to accelerate the development of self-driving technology. Argo AI was founded by 2 students who participated in the DARPA Grand Challenge teams. And Argo AI is just one of 5 worldwide leading companies that are located in Pittsburgh working on self-driving technology. Others include Aptiv, Aurora, Uber ATG, and initiatives led by Carnegie Mellon. Next. Our companies are also working to develop human-like capabilities. RE² experiences steady growth and recently received a $3 million award from the U.S. Department of Navy to develop an underwater robotic hand to make exploration and dangerous jobs safer and easier. Next. Here's Agility Robotics, a company that claims to rival YouTube videos, to rival Boston Dynamics. It's headquartered in Oregon, but with CMU roots, its East Coast operations are in Pittsburgh in order to tap into our large pool of talent and resources. Next. I also want to point out the University of Pittsburgh's Rehab Neural Engineering Lab, or NEURAL, which works to improve the lives of individuals with neurological impairments by developing, for example, prosthetic limbs that feel real, something we can all agree is an exciting and worthwhile endeavor. Next. Pittsburgh's also feeding the world. John Deere is a longtime community member in partnership with the National Robotics Engineering Center, or NREC. It's their mission to use technology to do social good. And in this case, they're leveraging robotics to feed the world in a scalable and sustainable way. Next. There's Fifth Season, which combines vertical farming with robotics and AI to reimagine the food system. They recently opened a facility on 1 acre of land that will produce 500,000 pounds of leafy greens. Think about this, that's equal to 300 acres of outdoor farm operations on just 1 acre of land. Fifth Season just raised $35 million to expand their operations. Next. And I'll close with my examples by showing Carta, which is a good example of several companies in Pittsburgh developing new technologies to map and inspect the world. Carta has a worldwide customer base primarily in construction, mining, and urban planning, and like many Pittsburgh companies are in a steep growth curve. Next. Other companies from around the world have joined us and established a presence here. This includes Bosch, Caterpillar, and Smith & Nephew, which acquired local company Blue Belt Technologies. Not to mention Uber, which strategically built their advanced technologies group in Pittsburgh. Next. And our success hasn't happened by accident. In addition to CMU, there are a number of academic and research organizations driving innovation, such as the University of Pittsburgh and the Advanced Robotics for Manufacturing Center, otherwise known as ARM. And Pittsburgh has a successful history of remaking itself through leading economic development and accelerator programs. This includes the Allegheny Conference, our co-host, and Innovation Works, a nationally recognized tech accelerator. Next. So to close, the PRN, the Pittsburgh Robotics Network, was created by companies, our local companies, to bridge you to Pittsburgh. I urge you to contact us at robopgh.org, and we can provide ways to make connections for talent or business purposes, to host discussions needed to expand our collective knowledge and influence the direction of the industry. We believe that by working together, we're going to accelerate the adoption of robotic solutions worldwide. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Joel. Next, we'd like to highlight one of the things that's really unique about Pittsburgh. And that's that having not just one, but 2 R&D powerhouse universities. And they are literally next door neighbors in Pittsburgh's Innovation District. Today, you're going to hear from Carnegie Mellon University and the University of Pittsburgh. Now, they could be competitors, but instead, these universities have chosen to collaborate, leveraging their top-tier strengths in areas such as computer science, robotics, engineering, biotech, and medicine. When there's opportunities for strengths to converge and create innovative solutions that improve global conditions, the Pitt-CMU Alliance is especially impactful. Working on solving the toughest problems and shaping the world, that's what we do in Pittsburgh every day. First, I'd like to turn things over to my colleague, Mark Nolan, who's Associate Vice President for Strategic Business Partnerships at Carnegie Mellon. Mark?
Good morning. It's wonderful to be here. Good evening, depending on where you are, and almost happy Friday to some of you in Far East Australia. I am Mark Nolan, and I'm an Associate Vice President engaged in business partnerships at Carnegie Mellon University. Next slide, please. As you'll see, my title has just changed, and would like to give you a virtual overview of Carnegie Mellon University. We're very disappointed we couldn't do this in person, but very happy to do this virtually. Next slide. Were you in campus today? It is a beautiful sunny day in Pittsburgh. I would have loved to have shown you our new ANSYS Hall, which is where our students across campus are learning about the use of computational fluid dynamics software in a variety of industries, from mechanical engineering into healthcare, and even into the arts. Speaking of the arts, you'll notice the next building on campus is our College of Fine Arts, among the oldest drama programs in the United States of America. Next slide. We'd also have the opportunity to show you our beautiful School of Computer Science. Computer science at Carnegie Mellon is very different from most universities in that rather than being an academic department within a college of engineering, it is made up of 7 unique departments, including machine learning, robotics, human and computer interaction, the Institute for Software Research, so think cloud software, broad engagement across the business enterprise and the national enterprise, and language technologies. The next building you'll see there is our relatively new Tepper School of Business, among the most beautiful buildings in Pittsburgh. Next slide. Now, to provide you an overview, a little background on Carnegie Mellon, if you're not familiar with us. Next slide. Carnegie Mellon was founded in 1900 really as a technical school for the sons and daughters of the steel workers that worked for Andrew Carnegie, one of the founders of the steel industry here in Pittsburgh. And indeed, it did not become Carnegie Mellon University until about 1967, when it merged with the Mellon Institute, creating Carnegie Mellon University. So I'm regularly reminded that the university is actually much younger than I am. And as Joel pointed out, in 1979, we formed the nation's first Robotics Institute. We have a long history in robotics. And in 1988, we had the nation's first School of Computer Science, again, set up very differently from computer science programs in most countries or most universities. Today, Carnegie Mellon is the youngest of the top 25 universities in the United States. Next slide. But we're not a huge university either. We have about 14,500 students and about 1,400 faculty, so a very nice ratio of faculty to students. And our students come from all over the world, including perhaps many of your countries, and our alumni are all over the world as well. As you can see, 144 countries. Next slide. We are made up of 7 schools and colleges, and while many think of Carnegie Mellon as a school of computer science or a college of engineering, again, we have a very sophisticated College of Fine Arts, the Tepper School of Business, Mellon College of Science, which would include biology, chemistry, other disciplines. The Heinz College of Information Systems and Public Policy is focused on such things as information systems, data sciences. So while I think of the School of Computer Science as creating new technologies, I think of many of the students coming out of the Heinz College as being the future CIOs of companies. The Dietrich College of Humanities and Social Sciences is also an unusual name for a school where such technology companies as Amazon and Google do a great deal of hiring. Why? Because of the great statistics and data science programs in that school. Next slide. We are the #1 school of computer science, and in fairness, we do share that designation with a few other great universities. We share the designation with MIT, Stanford, and Berkeley. Alphabetically, we're at the top of the list because Berkeley is technically the University of California at Berkeley. So we share that designation. Right next to that, you'll see, though, that we are the #1 school for artificial intelligence. We do not share that designation. We hold that designation singly, followed by those other great universities. We're also the #1 school for information and technology management. And my president would frown on the fact that I'm focusing on technology if I also didn't mention that we had the #1 best college theater program in the nation. And we argue very frequently about whether we have more Tony Award winners or more technologists award winners for such things as Turing Awards. We also have, while it says the number 6 College of Engineering, that's really the undergraduate program. Our graduate program is currently number 4 in the nation. And I'd also point out that at Carnegie Mellon, we've perhaps had such success at commercializing technology because slightly over half of our students are actually graduate students at Carnegie Mellon. Next slide, please. So there are some great innovations that have come out of Carnegie Mellon, and as Joel shared, artificial intelligence is arguably born at Carnegie Mellon University. Again, robotics goes back a long way, and some of the technologies that have come out of Carnegie Mellon perhaps have been a little frustrating for you, namely reCAPTCHA or the emoji. But we're also very, very good at making traffic more easy to get about and making cities more fluid. I'd like to point out the vehicle that Joel referred to earlier with the autonomous cars. That truck boss, again, won the DARPA Grand Challenge in 2007. And I don't believe that Pittsburgh's economy would be as strong as it is today had that vehicle not come in first place. That vehicle came in 20 minutes ahead of almost 20 minutes ahead of the second place car, which came out of Stanford University. Next slide, please. A few of the things that we'd love to talk with you about in the future: advanced manufacturing, where I'll touch on a bit more in the future; neuroscience, where we work with our private sector partners, but also with our great colleagues at the University of Pittsburgh; global decision-making, robotics, and autonomy. Next slide. Cybersecurity, a very strong cybersecurity program, both at Carnegie Mellon, but also with our partners at the University of Pittsburgh. Working on smart cities, biomaterials, think biosynthetic printing of human organs, and of course, artificial intelligence. Next slide. Science of learning. So how do we teach people better? How do we teach workers about new technologies? Of course, computer science again, energy systems as they relate to both the technologies themselves, but also policy, and natural language processing. Next slide. It was touched on briefly. The Advanced Robotics for Manufacturing Initiative is a partnership with that was founded by Carnegie Mellon, funded largely by the US government, thankfully, with the goal of taking robotics and improving the manufacturing processes to make the workers that we have dramatically more productive, and to do this in a very affordable way. It would be fruitless to create solutions with robotics that are too expensive. So the goal there is to make them as affordable as possible. The goal there is also to work with private sector partners around the United States, as well as with universities around the United States. Next slide. The National Robotics Engineering Center is where we use applied research to help companies on a bilateral basis address the challenges that they have. Next slide. Partnering with Carnegie Mellon. Next slide. Today, we work with 575 companies around the world, engaging with our students, sponsored research, setting up relationships with faculty, helping professional education within companies, licensing and technology transfer, working to connect our big partners with startups, and working on attracting companies like yours to come to Pittsburgh, where they can more easily collaborate with our faculty and students. Next slide. We have about 15 to 20 startups that come out of the university every year. Next slide. Two that have been involved and using AI include Sensors and LifeWare Labs. I'd be happy to get more information for you on these. Next slide. And then just very briefly touching on the Manufacturing Futures Initiative. Next slide. Where we're taking machine intelligence, engaging this with manufacturing technologies, but keeping humans in the loop, of course, using AI, robotics, and actually teaching people to work better with this equipment. Next slide. We'd love to show you when you come to Pittsburgh, the Mill 19 Advanced Manufacturing Facility. Next slide. And the reason that we're so successful in working with the private sector is that we're taking ideas that come out of the basic research of the university, but ensuring that it makes its way into the commercial market, both in manufacturing, but also robotics. The robotics facility you see at the top there is in Pittsburgh's Robotics Row. Next slide. Wonderful to speak with you today and look forward to your questions and look forward to having you here in Pittsburgh. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I'd now like to introduce Evan Thatcher, who's the Vice Chancellor for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at the University of Pittsburgh. Evan?
Thank you, Kyle, and good morning, everybody. I'd like to thank the organizers for the opportunity to talk to you today about the University of Pittsburgh, an institution that's been around since 1787. So we are about 233 years old at this point. But despite the age of the university, we're still involved with advancing innovations towards the forefront. So in my role as the Vice Chancellor for the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and as well as the Director of Pitt's Innovation Institute, our focus is on accelerating the pace of Pitt innovations. We're involved with educating, inspiring, and enabling others to make an impact on their own lives, on the lives of the folks in the region, the regional economy, and society. And we do this through a complete range of assistance, both on and off campus, everything from opportunity scouting to intellectual property management, to innovation licensing, to classes and workshops, to creating startups based on university technology, working with students to create startups based on their own ideas, as well as providing a whole collection of consulting and networking opportunities, not just for faculty, staff, and students on campus, but we also serve a large role from an economic development perspective in the region. Next slide. So the University of Pittsburgh is in the very top across a large number of metrics. We are the top 5 public universities in the northeastern United States. From a research perspective, we're 9th in the U.S. for federal science and engineering funding as we look at things from a National Science Foundation perspective. From a National Institutes of Health funding perspective, the University of Pittsburgh is 4th in the U.S. with nearly $600 million a year of NIH funding. Across total federal R&D funding among all U.S. universities, the university is 7th with nearly $1 billion of annual R&D funding. And when we connect that to innovation, we've been ranked in the top 40 of all innovative universities across the world. Next slide, please. A good deal of our innovation is focused in the area of life sciences. Most folks know the polio vaccine and how it emanated from the university. That area of research in life sciences is still important to us, especially at this day and age. You may have heard in the press about Paul Dupre, who's the director of our Center for Vaccine Research, one of the only BSL-3 level labs in the U.S. at an academic institute that actually has access to the COVID virus. We are in the process of developing multiple vaccines against COVID currently. Next slide. But all the research that we do on campus needs to get out of campus to have the societal benefit that is intended to. Over the last number of years, the university has put strong emphasis on accelerating the translation of technologies that are created on campus. Here, we're just showing a number of metrics that look at the last 5 years versus the 5 years prior to that to demonstrate the university's increasing commitment to commercial translation. On the invention disclosure side, the university has seen a fairly large increase in the number of invention disclosures that we receive annually. We receive anywhere on average between 350 to 400 new inventions sent into the university on an annual basis. We do a large number of transactions based on those technologies that come in the door as well. On average, over the last few years, we've been moving between 130 to 160 licenses every year to provide third parties with access to those technologies so they can create products and services based on those innovations. On the startup side, purely based on university technologies, we've increased that number dramatically. If we add, we've been averaging anywhere between 15 and 20 startups based purely on university technology, but we do the same work for students. That would add about another 15 to 20 startups per year. And then when we look at the small businesses that we help create in the region, more Main Street businesses, that would add about another 50 or so businesses that we're involved with creating. So on an annual basis, the university is involved with 80 to 100 new businesses created largely in our region. And on the patent side of the world, we are receiving about 80 to 100 new US patents every year. Again, demonstrating that the research that we're doing on campus is being translated to third parties that can take those technologies and create products and services that provide the intended societal benefit. Next slide. The region that we've talked about between the University of Pittsburgh and Carnegie Mellon is one of the most densely populated from an idea perspective. In the small 1.5 mile radius that connects the University of Pittsburgh, Carnegie Mellon, and the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center represents over a third of the total university research for the entire state of Pennsylvania. There's about $1.5 billion of annual research in that small area, which puts us as one of the highest R&D expenditures per metropolitan region, greater than other cities that folks may be thinking about, such as Raleigh and Seattle and Atlanta and Philadelphia. More ideas per capita emanate in Pittsburgh than most any other place in the US. Next slide, please. One of the unique aspects of the University of Pittsburgh is its connection to the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. We at one point were one entity, and a number of years ago, we split to two separate entities. The important thing here is there's a large number of operating agreements that connect the university still. So we have approximately 1,250 duly appointed Pitt UPMC employees. When those clinician researchers are doing research, they are wearing a University of Pittsburgh hat for the most part. And when they're seeing patients for a traditional visit, they are clinicians working in the UPMC domain. So for all federal research that comes through the healthcare system, it actually flows through the University of Pittsburgh. We oversee the intellectual property and the commercialization of those technologies. Because of this, we are the largest academic medical center in the entire United States with access to 40+ hospitals and access to a large number of patients on an annual basis. University of Pittsburgh Medical Center is a payer and a provider. So they do have a very large insurance operation as well. Next slide. Together with the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center and Carnegie Mellon, we have an interesting relationship for the commercial translation of research that focused on health data. So there is this collaboration between Pitt, CMU, and UPMC that brings together the academic translational research with biomedical, robotics, and digital healthcare. At Pitt, this is embodied in the Center for Commercial Applications of Healthcare and is run through our Department of Biomedical Informatics. But this many-year relationship between the entities allows us to create and commercialize a large number of technologies purely focused on digital healthcare. Next slide. With CMU, we also operate the Pittsburgh Supercomputing Center, which allows 75,000+ researchers a year with access to these kinds of technologies right here in Pittsburgh. Next slide. I would encourage you to take a look at the large number of technologies that are created annually at Pitt. We actually employ an AI-powered search tool that allows folks to understand technologies that are developed, to narrow folks' areas of interest, and connect on a regular basis with technologies that are being developed in your areas of interest. And you can access that through licensing.innovation.pitt.edu. Next slide. This all provides a large number of partnerships opportunities at the university, access to world-class research, clinical data, state-of-the-art facilities, and a large collection of talented students. We have approximately 35,000 students, both graduate and undergraduate on campus. We partner with companies in multiple ways, collaboration with key opinion leaders, access to revolutionary IP, and really just the ability to partner in many different areas. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Evan. And rounding out today's tour of Pittsburgh in our robotics and AI scene is Chris Martin, Director of Research and Development at Bosch. Chris will be sharing news about a remarkable partnership involving a Pittsburgh startup, Astrobotic, and NASA and the International Space Station. Chris?
Thanks, Kyle. Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Martin. I have the privilege of being the Director of R&D here at Bosch's Research and Technology Center here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My pleasure to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing here at our lab and why it's really an exciting opportunity for our company globally, and why this is really not just a Bosch success story, but a Pittsburgh success story, and a unique thing that I think is really a great example of what could come out of our region's strengths. Next slide, please. So what we're excited to talk about today is what's called the SoundSea mission. So our partnership together with NASA and the funding arm CASIS, but the other logo that you see on the screen here besides our Bosch logo is of Astrobotic, which is a spin-off out of Carnegie Mellon focusing on robotics in space. And I think that the partnership between all those entities here is really is the hallmark of this community, this ecosystem that we have here. And I'll share a little bit about how we all work together to get one of the first Bosch payloads in space in the history of our 135-year-old company. Next slide, please. So the SoundSea mission is really about using our proprietary developed audio AI technology to monitor one of the most complex pieces of machinery that mankind has ever constructed. So the International Space Station actually operates, or the portion of it operates, as a national lab of the United States. And it is an incredibly complex piece of scientific equipment, life support that houses any number of astronauts at a given time. And you see a picture of that here. And what the challenge here is you see this is sort of a representative picture of the environment, wires and tubes and metal and space and this thing spinning around the world a mile up. And the challenge is to ensure that we're providing a safe environment for the men and women that are operating up there. So what our audio AI technology does is it hitches a ride on that blue robot that you see in the environment right there. That's a robot that was developed by NASA together with the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And our SoundSea robot, you see that in the bottom center of the slide, slides in there, and it uses our audio AI technology to fly through. It hitches a ride on that robot which flies through the space station and collects audio samples through various points. And through that data collection, what we're able to do is create an acoustic image to understand the performance of the space station. Next slide, please. And so what we're doing is actually mission critical. The three gentlemen there, the three astronauts you see in that picture labeled #1, they're holding what we're monitoring. So that is those are pieces of the life support system of the space station. So this is really mission critical stuff that we're doing, and we're tasked in our partnership with NASA to monitor. And so right now, the state of the art of this is that the astronauts take time out of their busy schedules to go and manually monitor these elements of the space station, of the life support system. And it's kind of low fidelity. It's crude. Some of the tools that they have certainly do not employ the sort of the state of the art sensing and audio, and it's our AI technology that we're using in order to really enable a high performance classification of these systems. And so what we see is, so right now what we're doing is again that SoundSea robot. flies over there throughout, and again, this is throughout the entire space station. These gentlemen are holding replacement parts throughout there, and so it provides both a sort of a high fidelity, but also a potential for continuous coverage of the station's performance. And the second part you see there is we're not just pointing at individual components, but what we can also do is use this to create an acoustic image that I referenced earlier to understand, what might be hotspots flaring up. So just as you and I might hear a funny noise coming out of a part of our house that we might not have thought of. So, is the dishwasher going bad, or maybe our air conditioning unit? It's the same thing. So we're continuously collecting data as the robot, the AstroBee robot, with our SoundSea payload flies through the space station and allows us to create this heat map, this acoustic map of the station. So we're not just monitoring a system, but have plans together with NASA to monitor additional systems. Next slide, please. And so this is kind of where it gets a little bit back to our Pittsburgh story here. So regrettably, if the audience was here in Pittsburgh, we would have been able to show you around our lab. But this is a small screenshot of some of the instrumentation that we have set up in our lab. In the center of that picture, you see a replica of the space station that we have for ground testing. And so here, there's some speakers and some simulated sound coming out of there, and we have a robot that's quote unquote flies through. It's a ground-based robot for our setup, which allows us to have a really unique facility here in Pittsburgh for testing our prototype, for testing our robot, and being able to upgrade the performance of this over time. So for our initial mission, which we hope to expand into in the future. And that's right in the middle of our office in Pittsburgh. Our original collaboration, this again, to give a shout back to the Pittsburgh success story. This lab and portions of it were originally at the Robotics facility, which was originally in the Strip District neighborhood of Pittsburgh. They since expanded their footprint into another neighborhood in the north side of Pittsburgh. But again, that goes to show a really great partnership together with a startup, where we're able to act in a very agile way to use their experience in setting up and running these experiments, and then we were able to bring that onto our main facility, and then to expand, to use our corporate resources to expand and build off of that initial potential that we created together. Next slide, please. Great. And so the opportunity that we have here with this really groundbreaking research that we have together with NASA, there's a number of YouTube links which I believe that we'll share together with you. But one of the more interesting ones is it's narrated by Commander Mike Full, one of the astronauts who was the commander of the space station for about a year. And he talks about, at the end, he says, he believes really the cooperation between humans and machines and AI can lead us to all sorts of new frontiers and new potential. And what we're doing here is really to performing that research and using this as a first use case, this complex machine monitoring. There's a saying that we have in another one of the videos. It says if it'll work up here, so namely at the space station, it'll work down there, on Earth. And so what we're doing is we're leveraging our experience in monitoring this, again, one of the most complex machines that humankind has ever built, and deploying it to other examples, for example, around factories or mobility use cases, for example, autonomous vehicles. And so that's again, a picture of one of our associates working in our custom-built lab, where we're performing this research along a research test we call deep audio analytics, so improving the performance, the robustness, the applicability to these other use cases. Next slide, please. And again, unlimited potential. I think that through various events over the course of the last year, perhaps some of you saw the launch of the SpaceX rocket carrying Expedition 63 up to the International Space Station, the Crew Dragon capsule. That carried a little bit of a special meaning for our team. Astronauts Bob and Doug are the ones that will be up there carrying out these experiments with the SoundSea payload on the AstroBee robot. And so we see this potential, this collaboration that we've built here together with Carnegie Mellon, together with our partners at Astrobotic, and again with NASA. This is a first step, and we see a number of different opportunities to build on this success. So right now with the International Space Station, but also other things that you, other examples you might see here at the bottom, for example, the Lunar Gateway, which is intended to be an unmanned automated station that will live between the Earth and the Moon, and to provide a gateway for communication and other experiments in the upper atmosphere and in the Moon and beyond. Next slide, please. And I think with that, use the chance to wrap up and say thank you very much. And if you're interested in some of the work that we're doing, please take a look at some of the YouTube videos that we shared that I think that we'll share with you as a follow-up, and really look forward to having this chance to build on the first work that we've done, and to continue on this initial Pittsburgh success story, and go well beyond to the moon and even greater beyond that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. A long time, so I do want to make sure that we share with folks at any time. We're happy to arrange one-on-one virtual meetings and to connect and answer your questions about investing in Pittsburgh. You can use the Eventia platform through SelectUSA until the end of this week. Mick, in advance, and we'll come back to Q&A for those who were able to stay. Next slide. Next slide. You can always send us an email request at information@pittsburghregion.org, and either I or a member of the PRA team, will be in touch. For those of you who are able to stay with us, we do want to take some time with our panelists and engage in a bit of a discussion. As a reminder, there is the question feature in the control panel. Just click on that orange arrow to expand it. And things over to my colleague, Allison Treaster, who's the Senior Director of Talent at the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance.
Thanks, Kyle, and thanks everyone for your comments. I know we're over time, so I'll just keep this to a few, but I wanted to start with Mark and Evan. Can you talk a little bit about ways companies can expand, particularly international companies, work with Pitt and CMU through licensing, R&D, landing space, things like that?
Evan?
Go ahead, Mark. So we have a fairly large number of international collaborations already. We do hundreds of new licenses a year. We do hundreds of sponsored research agreements a year, and a good portion of those are with international companies. So within our university, we have an office called the Office of Economic Partnerships, which serves as the gateway for all of our industry relationships. That sits within our organization as well. So we do collaborations on the research side, on the licensing side, access techniques, internship opportunities. We work closely with Mark and his team around landing space for companies as well.
Yes, I'd add, at Carnegie Mellon right now, as I mentioned, we have about 575 active industry-sponsored partnerships, and that includes everything from engagements, student project type engagements, all the way up to providing some soft landing space. We have research collaborations of the 200 companies that we have active research with this month. About 27% of those are actually international companies. So we're always willing to engage with companies around the globe, around the technology and research that's coming out of Carnegie Mellon, and very frequently work with the University of Pittsburgh to ensure that if we don't have the best answer, we make sure that we search through the University of Pittsburgh to find the best answer and potential partnership for a company.
Thanks, everyone. And I know we're 5 minutes past, so I want to be conscious of everyone's time. But Kyle, if you can kind of talk us through and wrap up, how has COVID impacted our ability to have businesses expand here or visit? And also, if a company is interested in expanding in Pittsburgh, can you talk through who they reach out to and how to go about that process?
Sure. Well, first, I want to make sure to thank all of our panelists today, for joining us. To Allison's questions, I think those we've been fortunate as it relates to COVID and how much it's come impacted our communities and have been able to manage that well. I think it's a testament to the health system as well as the officials locally and at the state. So we remain optimistic as far as that is concerned, and as it relates to the ability for folks to visit and expand. We've managed a number of those virtually through formats like this, as well as done and some tours with folks at a safe social distance. That said, we were also seeing expansions. I think we were in the news earlier in June for the Zoom deciding to put an R&D center here, and just week with folks from Madeira, who's currently based in Portugal, and their U.S. operations based in San Diego are now putting an East Coast operations center in Pittsburgh. So we're still seeing those expansions. We're still seeing those investments. I know we're running low on time here, and I'm sure everyone has more questions, and there's certainly a lot more we can explore. But we hope that you saw and heard enough and really got a feel for what it is and are excited about Pittsburgh. Really happening here, and we really think you should be a part of it. We continue the conversation with us about Pittsburgh, where next is now, and what could be next for your company and your clients. Regional Alliance is here and ready to help you find your place. We're happy to arrange one-on-one virtual meetings to connect to you directly, answer your questions about expanding to and investing in Pittsburgh, as well as making connections to partners that we heard from today. You can use the Eventia platform Greg mentioned earlier through SelectUSA until the end of this week. And you can always reach out to us both at the information@pittsburghregion.org email, as well as my email that you see on the screen there, and we will make sure to be in touch. Thank you again for joining us, and depending on where you are in the world, please enjoy the rest of the day or have a good night. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you.